Welcome back. One of the prerequisites of this course is to have basic understanding of dimensional data model. That includes star schema, snowflake schema, and of course dimensions and measures. Like most other BI tools, QlikView prefers star schema. So let's quickly review this concept since we will be using dimensions and measures, and our aim throughout the course is to create a star schema while building a data model. As we discussed in the prior session, relational databases are highly normalized. The reason for that is that relational databases are built for transactional systems that require a database to insert large number of rows quickly. However, this adds more tables and joins and thus poses a major issue for one of the most fundamental goals an organization has, and that is to gain insight from its own data. So, to combat this problem, in late 80s and early 90s, dimensional data model evolved. And dimensional data model is the one that is being predominantly used in most data warehouses. Well, dimensional data model normally contains a star schema. Every star schema has a fact table with a multi-part key and a set of smaller tables surrounding the fact table. And these tables are dimension tables. Each dimension has a primary key that corresponds to one of the foreign keys in the fact table. This forms a star-like shape and thus called star schema. Also, as shown in this depiction, there is one-to-many relationship between dimensions and fact in a star schema, since same attribute has multiple records in the fact table. Now let's quickly review a snowflake schema. While snowflake schema is somewhat undesirable form that QlikView and other BI tools like to have, but there are instances when a snowflake schema is not avoidable. So, as shown in this depiction, department dimension has relationship to several other dimensions, but not to the fact. It is related to lecturer, student, and course dimensions, but not to the attendance fact. Since it has to go through one of these dimensions to join with the fact, it creates a snowflake schema. And snowflake schema is less desirable since it involves more number of joins. So we will make every effort to create star schema, and that's normally the goal while creating a QlikView data model. So now let's quickly review measures and dimensions. Well, we'll begin with measures first. Measures are numeric values, such as quantity sold or gross revenue, and they reside in the fact table. While in QlikView, we refer measure as an expression. That's somewhat misnomer, since not all expressions are measure. For instance, if you create an expression to label a dimension or an expression, then that expression is not really a measure. Also, if you create a short order using an expression, that's not a measure. So you have to be cognizant, but in general, expression is measured in QlikView. Another important point to understand is that calculations made over a number of records, since fact table contains thousands of millions of records and each contain a numeric value, QlikView aggregates these values, and in the simplest form it uses one of the aggregation functions such as sum, average, count, and so forth. So any type of chart that you create will have an aggregation done by the dimensions that you choose. But measures get aggregated in the charts in general. Also, it's important to know that measures alone cannot provide a holistic view of data, since there is no point of reference or context, and that's when dimensions come in play, and they provide the context to the measures. So, in a nutshell, measures are numeric. They're contained in the fact, and they're normally used in one of the several KPIs that you will create when you create a dashboard, such as sales, gross margin, net profit, and so forth. So let's discuss dimensions now. Well, dimensions provide context to the fact, as we discussed before. A fact without context has no value or very minimal value. For instance, if I say we made $10 million as a company this year in profit, which may be good or bad depending on how the company performed last year. So dimensions contain textual description, which provides a context to the measure, and dimensions are used in charts along with measure. So in most charts that you create in QlikView, you'll start with a dimension and then you create an expression using one of the measures. Some of the dimensions that we will be using in this course are products, customer, employees, region, categories, and so forth. So now quickly look at one example. Even though this is not a designer course, it is important to understand how dimensions and measures are used. In fact, even if we create simple tables, we will be using dimensions and measures. And tables are also called charts in QlikView for that reason. So as shown in this depiction, we have sales for each product. So product being the dimension, and we're using sum of sales amount for the order times the quantity to come up with the sales. And in a SQL world, as shown in the depiction, it's simply a group by function. Whereas the first line, which has the sum, is the measure, and the second that shows product name is dimension. So these are very basic understanding of dimensions and measures, snowflake schema, and star schema that is essential for you to become a successful developer. And they're even more important when you work as a designer, since you will be using various charts, and to create charts you'll be using dimensions and measures. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.